As I watch Control Resonant protagonist Dylan Faden warp reality while crushing legions of strangely shaped cosmic horror foes, I can see the same energy as Jessie Faden's controlled chaos from the first game. At the same time, where Jessie used her shape-shifting service weapon gun, Dylan gets stuck in with Devil May Cry-like combat, using a transforming weapon of his own, the melee-centric Aberrant. With the action having moved from one estranged sibling to the other, both similarities and differences are very much intentional. Part of the thinking is that these two games stand on their own feet, and they are like expressions of the two different siblings, says Michael Kasarinen, creative director of Control Resonant and the Control series. They both have their own way of doing things, but they're each like another side of the coin. The Federal Bureau of Control's lockdown is over. The Federal Bureau of Control's lockdown is failed. The paranatural entities hostile to humanity, once contained to causing havoc within the sealed, non-Euclidean labyrinthine walls of the oldest house, FBC HQ, have now ruptured. With the unknowable threats spreading across Manhattan, the island itself has fallen to space-time ripping the patterning, and it threatens to spread further. Dylan Faden, once considered too dangerous to leave the oldest house, may now be the only one who can quell the threat. He must defeat Resonance, humans twisted into monstrous beings who roam the city, and absorb their power. Despite the switch from shooting to melee, the last-minute dodges, well-timed violence, and explosive debris during the scraps I've seen Dylan deal with still feels very Control. This is a sequel, and we've spent a lot of time figuring out what it meant to make a Control game, says lead gameplay designer Sergei Mohov, emphasizing that, yes, this is Control 2 in all but number. To us, it means being aggressive, being on the move, interplay between weapon attacks and combat abilities. I would like to emphasize the aggressive part, says Kasarinen. Remedy has long been known for excellent third-person shooters that leverage creative powers, whether that's the now iconic bullet time in Max Payne or the keep-away torchlight of Alan Wake. But it's never really made a cover shooter. With Control, it was actually a bit of a challenge when it's a shooter, but it's not a cover shooter. We wanted people to leap into the middle of enemies, keep doing things, using abilities, shooting, of course, and so on. It's all about how you navigate these complicated, fluid situations. That's what makes the game fun and makes it tick. You could say it's exactly what we have with Control Resonant as well. I do feel like the DNA is shared in an extensive way. The design principles of the first Control remain intact, but the scope of Dylan's mission here means balancing wider spaces with more intimate combat encounters. There's this kind of epic, monumental feel to the city, says Kasarinen. But there's actually something really appropriate about still going with melee, because it's a more organic way for the players to kind of move through the world. They have to go through the enemies, versus shooting them from a distance, which is not necessarily the experience we wanted. Described as an action RPG, Control Resonant Melee allows you to get as detailed as you'd like. Dylan's Aberrant is highly customizable, and you can press the D-pad at any time to step into the gap to tweak your powers to your liking, similar to instantly entering the Mind Palace in Alan Wake 2. At its core, that means picking a primary, secondary, and combo ender form for the Aberrant, which enables you to create your own personal string of combos, then supplementing those attacks with resonant abilities and talents to create synergies. Which resonant abilities you use are the major divergent choices in playstyle build in Control Resonant, earned by defeating each resonant boss. Almost a bit like using a remembrance in Elden Ring, this doesn't simply give Dylan one ability, but a choice of 3. Remedy shows me 2 different options for a single reward. The first is a telekinetic shield that swarms debris around Dylan, absorbing damage by chipping away at the resource bar, but that also turns Dylan's dodge into a shield bash that deals blunt and knockback damage. The other is a summon type ability, Seekers, glowing entities that fight on your side to shoot out blunt debris damage, but can also be thrown as an explosive projectile. Getting to see combat builds based around both, the former has Dylan getting really stuck into the fray, slamming into foes, while the latter build is supplemented by more summons, such as molded turrets, having Dylan run circles around enemies while diving in to dish out big damage when enemies are softened up. Abilities use a resource shown as a meter at the bottom of the screen, with more power juice gained by using aberrant attacks and finishers, all while talents can activate to give buffs that aid in the back and forth. Mohoff calls talents the glue that ties your combat abilities and melee attacks together. These include the aforementioned perfect dodge, but also the likes of hit and run, which gives a 25% damage and falter boost to dodge attacks. Backstab damage to increase damage from strikes behind enemies by 50%, or simply extended dash for a 200% increase in dash duration. Experimentation is at the heart of what Control is, both as a game for people to play and for Remedy as a studio. It's one of the reasons Control Resonant doesn't have a number 2 on it. We don't want it to be a sense of, oh, I should go through this back catalogue of things before I play this one, says Kasarinen. Part of the Control franchise overall is that we don't just follow one character about the world, we have these different lenses into that world. Dylan's journey builds on FBC Firebreak, which followed everyday FBC agents struggling to maintain the oldest house's quarantine. Control is not a journey of a single character. These are different entry points into the world, he says. Control Resonant's announcement has caused a lot of whats and whys, but that stems from Remedy going, as usual, in its own way. It's an action RPG, but not one with traditional gear or stats. It's not an open world, it's an open-ended world. You no longer play as the hero fans came to love in the first game. Now you use melee instead of shooting. There's a lot of reasons for all of the above, but the simple answer is the best. Melee is cool. That's one side of it, says Kasarinen. It's always nice to find something to be invested in. It's an exciting idea for us. But what about you? Are you excited to get your hands on Control Resonant? Let us know in the comments, and stick with GamesRadar for all the latest gaming news, reviews, and previews.